Welcome to another episode of Teach Jenn Tech. Today being Teach Jenn Nuxt with Daniel Rowe. Daniel, who are you and what's Nuxt?
Hi, it's really nice to be here. Who am I? I didn't expect to, get into such in-depth sort of soul searching just straight out of the box, but that was my joke. I'm Daniel. I live in the UK. I lead the Nuxt team. Nuxt is a framework for building web apps. It's a full stack framework, and it's designed for the edge. I've got 3 cats and a dog. I live on the shore of a river, and currently all day today it has been totally grey and rainy, and so I'm cozy inside.
Good. And thank you for joining us today and being back home after all of your travels. I know I just got back from New York, so I'm like, oh wait, I have to go back to normal now. Like we're normal schedule. What is this?
It's a totally different thing, isn't it? Sort of suddenly you're like, right, regimes. I actually I have a routine. I like my routine. It works well. Like there are bits of it that I like. Lunch. Here's my, like, I don't think I've ever told anybody this, like, publicly, but every day I have soup. I go make myself some soup and I have it in a mug and I drink it. Like that is the level of like home comfort that we're talking about. Like totally easy, but incredible. That's my top tip for today.
Nice. And what up, Parasocial? Okay, Daniel, what kind of soup? Is it the same soup every day? And is it homemade soup or canned soup or like the pre-made mix?
I see I have opened a can of worms, or is that a tin of soup?
Are you having worm soup?
I hope not. I very much hope not. No, it's different. It's almost, I probably would not mind if it was the same every day, but it varies. Like today I had just tomato soup, but I sort of tipped half of the spice jar of chili in it. So it's very spicy tomato soup. Sometimes I might put like a little bit of a sort of basil or something on top of it. And that just sort of it makes it a little bit nice.
I like it.
But it's so nice. So honestly, I'm sorry if I'm taking over about soup.
No, I like learning about soup.
And that's not, I'm no expert, but it's just so, it's perfect when the weather is cold and the clouds are gray and it's raining outside, and just to be able to sort of sit back and look at a PR or something and sort of gently sip your soup. It's very nice. That's peak life. That's what I'm saying.
I'm just thinking about that, and where I live, it is about 47 degrees Celsius. For those in the US, that's about 117 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm like, soup right now? I would not be able to do it.
No, that is.
Oh, goodness. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that I completely agree.
I have a frittata. It's a sweet potato, feta, spinach frittata almost every single day.
A frittata, like, honestly, that is, okay. I'm going to be honest with you. So, like, frittata sounds amazing, but the few times I've had them, they seem to have a lot of vegetables in them.
That's why I only make it at home.
Yeah.
Is I'm way too picky about it if it's somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm like,
but like the concept
somewhere else.
Is it potatoes and other stuff, and you can have sort of different hash type things in it?
It's egg, sweet potato, spinach, feta, rosemary, and paprika.
Because I think that could persuade me. That does sound nice. Those sound like good things to be together. I don't know about the sweet potato, but I'm willing to be persuaded.
It's so yummy. It's very easy to cook, and I make it, and it works like once every 5 days. Wait,
Mm.
what? What are shower oranges? Why have neither
Oh,
of you told me
Jenn.
about shower oranges?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So I'm so happy that I get to be the one. Like, I feel that this is a significant moment in my life. I get to be the one to introduce you to shower oranges. Now, shower oranges are not the concept is actually very simple, and you're going to just find this is crazy. Um, and then I'm going to say one sentence, and immediately you're going to understand why. So a shower orange is an orange that you eat in the shower. And in your head, you're thinking, that is ridiculous. Why would you eat an orange in the shower? And then I'm going to say one sentence. And the sentence is, it doesn't matter about the juice. You can just enjoy that orange and just relish the orange. And it is totally okay. And shower peaches, probably equally good. Shower mangoes. You could have any number of different shower fruits. Can you just appreciate the freedom of having them in the shower? Isn't that actually like that's a mind-blowing
Okay.
concept. That's like, once it's explained, this it's not just me, right? This is a good idea.
I like the shower orange. I am iffy about the peaches, but I like to do my peaches in a bowl with like almond milk or something. So I'm like picky about my peaches. But I get it. I get it. And oh geez. That's pretty funny. That is pretty funny. But how okay. This is my other question. And for those who don't know, who's also in the chat is Josh. I can't even say your name again, apparently today. Josh Goldberg. There we go. Who has been on our show many, many times that we talk about learning TypeScript. So, how does Nuxt and TypeScript go to shower oranges?
Jenn is like, we are going to talk about Nuxt today. Whatever, soup, shower oranges, what's going on? Next, we're going to be talking about, I don't know, semiconductors at room temperature or something like that. What does Nuxt and TypeScript have to do with shower oranges? I'm not sure there is an answer to that question. I feel like they are in separate planes of reality, except that they are both amazing. Maybe that's going to be
Ooh.
my
Okay.
sort of link.
Okay. I like it.
Am
I
I
like it.
am I allowed to say that? Like, I might not be allowed to say that. That might be sort of too. I might be too invested in it.
I mean, I feel like you are pretty invested in shower oranges, but Nuxt, I feel like is newer for you than maybe shower oranges. I could be wrong, but which came
It's
first?
it's totally true. It's true. No, I think at some point I went to look on GitHub to find the first ever issue that the first ever open source contribution I made to Nuxt, to anything Nuxt related. And it is actually not, I feel it's not that long ago. So basically, I only started, I think, open source contribution. Actually, this probably is a little bit while ago now. Time passes. It sort of seems like year after year. Just basically, I don't think I made a contribution to Nuxt until 2019. So like to
Okay.
any Nuxt repository, like a module or whatever. And I think that's right. I think in 2019 I made that's when I really started. So that was like 4 years ago. I think that was when I got involved in the Nuxt community.
And I mean, so shower oranges clearly came first. Got it. But
No,
like
actually,
no,
that's
no.
the thing. That may be where my deep inner passion for shower oranges comes from, because I'm new to them. So I'm just discovering the delight. It was actually, I only found out about them on a GitHub call, that GitHub did had a little sort of roundtable on sort of open source maintainers' mental health. And we were
Mm.
just chatting about different sort of techniques. And I actually don't know how this came up, but someone brought up ShowerOranges. Was it Josh? I don't know. I don't know who it was, but someone brought up ShowerOranges. There's actually a whole subreddit devoted to ShowerOranges. I'm not sure if that's still true, given the sort of things to do with Reddit. But there's a whole ShowerOrange subreddit about people talking about shower fruit of different kinds. And so I discovered it just sort of fresh a few months or so ago. So I'm afraid my contributions to the ShowerOrange cause are relatively recent.
If anybody can link that subreddit, I feel like it's definitely going to be worth reading later on. And Josh, I'm going to go to yours first. Yes. Oh, iced matcha sounds amazing right now. I had so many matchas while traveling lately. Um, Yay, thank you, Daniel. And parasocial. Well, Daniel, did you have anything to do with naming Nuxt?
Parasocial is absolutely right. I did not have anything to do with naming it Nuxt. I did not. So I'm a relative latecomer. So I came around. I think Nuxt 2 was already out. I think, and I think it was by the time I started using Nuxt. And no, I didn't name it. I mean, for those who are wondering, Nuxt was a hat tip to Next. So Next was one of the first frameworks out there, JavaScript meta frameworks, doing a lot of cool things. So page-based routing, configuring Webpack, and we're doing it for React, the React ecosystem. And Nuxt came along, so Sebastian and Alex Chapin came. They built basically what was originally a template for working with Vue, and then basically it became a meta framework quite quickly. And lots of contributions, lots of contributors. It grew very quickly. It was named Nuxt, I believe, as far as I can tell, because of the letter U in Vue. So just as Next with React and Nuxt with Vue. And it was basically saying we're like Next, but for Vue, like a fun thing. So and it's still Nuxt. I think it's a fun name.
I feel like this does bring up a good point of if anyone is wondering like how Daniel ended up being on the show, oh my gosh, it's almost been a year. August is closer to October than I thought it was. Okay. So October of 2022, I emceed I think it was Nuxt Nation. And it was a great opportunity. And I knew not a lot about Nuxt or Vue. I am still learning a lot. And I was like in my head, barely understanding that meta frameworks are even a thing. And like going, what is Nuxt? What is Vue? I'm glad they're like writing these questions for me. And I just want to say, in case anybody's curious, I also compared it to like hydration with quick at some point, and I was like, now I know they have nothing to do with each other, and that was probably a bad one, but, you know, it was a learning experience, and then you were in Vue Nation and I think Vue Forge, the last Vue Forge, right?
That is all
Yeah.
true. And you were great at Nuxt Station, by the way. Like
Oh,
I don't
thanks.
know what you're doing about sort of now I know it's all very different. You're fantastic.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's always fun because I get to ask a lot of random questions. And one thing that, because of time restraints, I haven't been able to ask, but I would love to hear your version of it because you started to talk about what the difference between Next and Nuxt is. And I like that it's Next is to React as Nuxt is to Vue. But can you explain a framework to a meta framework and why someone would use a meta framework?
So I guess yeah, of course. So basically, when we're talking about JavaScript frameworks, we're typically talking about something that helps manage reactivity and user interface in a browser. It could mean a lot of things, but that's typically what we mean. So something like React or Vue or Angular is basically helping developers more easily write code that translates to interactive user interfaces in a browser. So it you can do things like, say, the content of this bit of this div should be always the user's name. And then when you change the user's name, it reactively updates that. And so that kind of reactivity, that kind of declarative syntax, so you're not having to go and like document query selector, get the div, change the text you're not having to do that. That is typically, I think, what we mean by a JavaScript framework. So there are lots of them, like Solid, Svelte, React, Vue, lots and lots and lots of great frameworks. And a meta framework builds on that. So just as the framework exists to abstract away the pain of like writing your own sort of jQuery and sort of going and finding stuff and making it happen, a framework makes it simpler and better. So a meta framework does the same. So it aims to take more pain away for other things that you need to do. So often meta frameworks will handle like build tooling. So originally, the success of both Next and Nuxt came from the fact that Webpack was both wonderful, but also extremely painful to configure. And most people getting started in web development today wouldn't have a clue because, thankfully, won't have a clue because Webpack was so bad. It was so hard to configure. It was such a good tool, don't get me wrong, that when you had a framework that would just handle that for you, it was wonderful. And they would also do other things as well, like handle server-side rendering, which again was something that wasn't straightforward to get started. They sort of had various different best practices built in. They would handle things like also configuring a backend framework. So that might be Express or Connect or something like that. And so basically a meta framework brings more goodies to the table. But along the same kind of lines, like you're moving away from assembly code towards abstractions that work better for the work that you have to do. And the challenge always, as you go up that sort of pyramid, Maslow's hierarchy or whatever, towards that like the perfect developer experience, the challenge is how do you keep have enough control? Because at every step where you have a sort of abstraction, something that makes your life easier, sometimes, well, what if you want to get into the nitty gritty? And so a big part of what a good meta framework is, from my point of view, is do you have escape hatches that let you shimmy down the pole all the way down to the bottom of the pyramid to tinker with a few bricks and then get on a lift back up to the top again, if the analogy hasn't completely shot into outer space.
I like it. And I think that's a good explanation of it. Before I ask you how you, before I ask you about what you would put into a full stack app if you were to build one, because I'm very excited about this question. How would you explain TypeScript? Because I feel like a lot of people, and Josh, if you're still watching, I am purposely asking during somebody that does it all. But it can be confusing because of TypeScript doing a type system and people confusing that to like a meta framework. How would you explain TypeScript on top of all of it?
So I would say TypeScript is a way of annotating your code to describe its what your code expects to receive and return in terms of this basic building blocks of the language. So things like strings and numbers and objects and things like that. So most of the time, TypeScript doesn't actually change your code. It only describes it better. So it enables you to it enables your tooling, things like eslint, eslint, or your IDE like VS Code, or even a build step to detect bugs. Like so you're assigning a number to a string, and if you're going to call a string method on it, it's not going to work. And so TypeScript, by letting you annotate your code and by doing a lot of inference to sort of figure out, even when you don't explicitly say what something is, it basically gives you a better developer experience. by spotting
Okay.
bugs and adding that purely build time developer experience layer on top of things. TypeScript does have runtime elements to it. Most of the time, I don't use them personally. I view it as mostly about improving the quality of the code you write at write time. I almost actually never use the actual emitted code that TypeScript emits. I just strip the type data, but I think it's a very, very useful build step tool.
I like it. And Josh asks, I feel like this is just setting you up for success. What is eslint?
Setting you up for success and trolling are very closely related in this particular context. So I think so. For those who may not know, so eslint is an amazing way to also spot issues that may creep into your project or enforce certain standards of code style. So, for example, you might want to say you always need to handle an error that might be thrown by a promise, by an async await operation. And you can enforce that kind of thing with something like eslint. So eslint allows you to write these rules. It comes with lots of great ones built in. It understands TypeScript pretty much out of the box. It's a great tool. So I would say most projects that are around these days would be using eslint. So I hope that helps, Josh. Actually, I can't believe there's probably a terrible explanation. Josh should basically jump in and be like, "This is Daniel. You've actually missed the main philosophical point of eslint." But that's how I sort of think of it.
I love it. And for those who are curious, and hello to all the raiders. Thanks, Jason. Because we are talking about TypeScript and going through those differences as well. Josh has been on the show probably maybe the most out of anyone, maybe. And so we have a learning TypeScript playlist for those who want to check it out. And it is very fun to troll and set up Daniel for success to talk about what TypeScript and ESLint are. So yes. And what up, Jacob? Yay, Jacob. Jacob's been on the show too. When he first tried teaching me about what TypeScript was, and it ended up being about, I think, headless servers. I don't know. It was very, very early on. And it was pretty funny because I could not understand it whatsoever. And then, yeah, and Jason's been on the show. Lots of, oh, yes, workers. Yeah, I feel like we shouldn't go in. At one point, Jacob,
We should go
will,
into work. I feel worker. Yes, Edge.
Yeah.
Come on, Jacob.
You want to explain it, Daniel? We'll just go from Nuxt into Edge, serverless, and workers because it's not clicking yet.
Well, so basically, Nuxt is written for this. So one of the benefits that you get by opting into Nuxt is that you can compile it. So when you run that build step, it builds for you. If you're deploying on Cloudflare, it builds for Cloudflare workers or pages or whatever your target is. If you're deploying on something else like Dino, it builds for Dino. If you're deploying on Vercel, whether that's their Edge or the serverless, it builds for that. So basically, Nuxt is designed for this. So workers is very much I love it. I'm all about that.
Okay. So how would you explain? And this is something interesting. That's a good question. Oh my gosh. These are fun questions. I'm enjoying this. I don't know about you, Daniel, but I'm enjoying this. How would you explain what Edge is? I had this on another episode, but I think that explaining what Cloudflare and Edge does is another way of understanding what workers do and being able, especially because there's so many terms for everything, which is very frustrating when we had somebody on for analytics and talking about event logs and Pinot, Apache Pinot. There's words for the same words go for multiple things. It's very frustrating. But how would you explain it?
So I would say basically, sorry, I didn't say what Edge actually was, just that we supported. So basically, I think Edge is actually a confusing term. So traditionally, I think Edge really refers to a location. So Edge means you might have something like a central server. Imagine you had your server, a single server, and it's in the center. And then you have lots of users connecting to it. You have the closer you get to the user, the more on the edge you are of the sort of what that server is serving. And so you can actually do this is a super simplified and probably inaccurate explanation, but so edge is sort of near your users. And when it's not just a single server, but a whole network serving these kind of requests, then you can actually have different layers. You could have like the thing that's your server in the middle, but then you can have content delivery networks, for example, which actually have computers close to your users. And those computers close to your users aren't actually processing the request, but they're doing things like caching data and sort of responding quickly with the responses where they can respond quickly, and then deferring to the central server's inaccurate, but they're deferring to the something that's a bit further away to answer the request. And so when we're talking about moving stuff to the edge, what we're talking about is moving things away from centralized locations that are further away from users to locations which are like many and very close to the users. So instead of just having 10 regions across the world where your code runs, it might be in like 50 or 100. Or Jacob would be better able to tell me exactly how many, but it would be in lots and lots of places. And one of the consequences, so for me, edge is location. But when we talk about edge these days, we're mostly talking about a different format, because if you want to take code that was running in like a few places and actually run it in lots and lots of places, you need to make it small and fast so that it can actually respond to those requests pretty instantly, and not like you don't just want to multiply the central servers. You actually want just something that can quickly respond. And part of how we've done that these days in lots of providers, from Dino to Cloudflare to Lagon, is basically to have not like a little mini Docker or a sort of Lambda, which is you have a zip with node modules in it, but something even smaller, which is called V8 isolates. V8 is the engine that powers both Node on your CLI and Chromium in the browser, and it also powers these edge runtimes. So they're basically little isolated environments where you can execute some code. And those environments are often a lot like a browser. So instead of having access to things like the file system, they'll have access to things like request and response object or a native fetch method and things like that. So this is a super, super long explanation, but I would say edge is a way of describing location. A worker environment is a way of describing the kind of environment that is running your code. But typically they get combined. So when we talk about Nuxt running on the edge, we are talking about it supporting this worker environment, which enables it to be deployed to the edge location. So it supports lots of different sort of locations, and so do other frameworks too. But I think this is a really, really nice move. So and a great pressure. So this move from like a single server that runs for a long time and processes lots of requests was very tolerant of things like slow start, because it didn't matter, because you only started it once and then it sort of lasted forever. But with this V8 isolate thing, these edge networks, they don't have everybody's code running all the time, because actually they need to just fire it up quickly to respond to individual requests that are coming in. And so it has to be super fast to start. So for example, when we moved from Nuxt 2 to Nuxt 3, we completely rewrote the framework. I mean, I'm not sure there's a line of code that's the same. And so in Nuxt 2, the cold start, the amount of time it took to, after you ran the code to start Nuxt, was about 300 milliseconds to start the server. Now, 300 milliseconds is a third of a second. It's not that long, but it's very long if you're adding that to a request. So if someone is making a request, it basically that's going to mean you're probably going to be a second. It's going to feel like a long response. Nuxt 3 is 1 millisecond, so it's 300 times faster than Nuxt 2, and it doesn't. I mean, obviously your mileage might vary. That's just my laptop. But that means that, and there's other things that add to it. So like your actual network request, there'll be DNS resolution. So it matters that you have a good name servers and so on. It's like if you're on a serverless environment like AWS or Vasilla and Netlify have serverless environments as well as edge runtime ones. You'll also have to sort of download and unpack a zip file that has your code in it. So like all of these things add milliseconds. The bit that I'm talking about is just one part of it. And then you also have the amount of time it takes to respond to the request. And then send it back. So like there's lots of different components in there. But one of the significant ones from the point of view of what we have control over as a framework is the amount of time it takes to start the code. And so moving from like 300 to 1 millisecond is a big deal for us. And one of the things is that we dynamically load the code in as required. So actually we don't load the code that isn't needed. And at the moment, that's something that is actually missing on Cloudflare, but not. It is now supported, as in it had been missing for a while, but it is now supported, which is a really delightful thing to hear. So hat tip to you, Jacob.
Okay, that definitely was a lot to take in. Yet it did make sense.
Sorry.
Yet I think the part that I am slightly still a little stuck on is, so it makes sense that edge is, from my understanding, further away, but workers are closer, or am I backwards?
I'm sorry about that. It's on me probably for using these two terms. Typically, edge and workers are the same. So
Okay.
the edge is the location, and the worker environment is typically used on the edge. So typically, they are the same. They don't have to be. So you can have a different kind of environment that's running in that same location. But for me, I don't know. Jacob is saying no in the comments. I don't know what that means. But like for me, edge is the location, and a worker environment is a kind of like code environment, like a runtime. You have a node runtime, you have a browser runtime, you can have web workers, you can have different kind of service workers and so on. But that worker kind of environment is often used on the edge. And so typically when people are talking about a deployment target, they're talking about deploying target to the edge, which is close to your users. But yeah.
I'm letting that noodle, and then also my dog is barking nonstop in the background. And okay,
Does your dog want to come? Like, what kind of dog do you have?
she
I have a
is,
golden retriever.
she is a bulldog pit bull mix, and she is an old lady that cannot hear anymore. She turns 13 next month, so she cannot hear. So I can't even yell at her. Like, I'd have to go find her. I mean, it's not hard. She's very, what up, Bakari? And thank you everyone for joining and being a part of our discussion about Nuxt, which ended up talking about edge and workers. And there's a lot that goes into it. We've also discussed TypeScript and eslint.
I explained it to Josh. It was important that he understand. He was a bit confused, it seemed, about TypeScript, and then eslint just came into the mix. It was important.
Yeah. And I felt like you were just doing the same for, what Cloudflare does and workers. And thank you for the explanations. And learner asked a question of serverless means you delegate everything to your hosting and run a small individual functions where your hosting provider takes care of scaling out.
It's a pretty fair definition of it. Exactly. So of course there's still servers, but you're not really concerned with provisioning the server. You're not concerned with scaling the servers. What you're concerned about is your code. And so mostly with serverless, you'll have your dependencies, you'll have your code, and they'll take care of like firing it up, scaling it, running it. It's like a bit like, so yeah. You then can have something like Docker, which is more than that. It doesn't really count as serverless in my book, but it's still, it can be scaled, and you can have providers who will basically do that with your Docker images. And then you can have, full server where you are actually managing it. You've got Ansible or Terraform or something like that. And, or you've got sort of elaborate Kubernetes deployment strategies. And honestly, if you don't have to deal or think about that, then that's probably a win.
For edge workers, you sort of have to have that for your users' nearest regions for performance. And Jacob said education, edge location, not education, edge location. Yes. Okay. You guys, I'm gonna pause on these ones because now you guys are going on going way above my head, and I'm getting there. I am getting there, but I've only been doing this for a little over a year and have gone to specifically focusing mostly on backend and learning data infrastructure. So, but I still am oh, go ahead.
No, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
You're good. You're good. I definitely feel like it's something that we were talking about this before we started streaming of how complicated all this can be to learn. Like you also need to learn, and as many of you know, practicing and actually doing it myself instead of just theory, because I can get the theory, but then I actually need to code it. It's been a lot of fun, but it can be very difficult to understand what all of these go into. And before I go a bit more into Nuxt, I'm curious if you were to build a full stack app, what tech would you use? What would your tech stack be?
Ooh, that is a good question. But I mean, and I will answer it. But I mean, I do completely agree with what you said about how complex some of this is. Because I think thinking about this, I mean, I've sort of picked bits up here and there over a little while. Like this is really tough if you're just suddenly thinking I must understand everything, and you've got like even Nuxt, it's okay. It runs on Node in development. It runs on Node.js runtime, which is in the command line. And you have to understand what's going on in the command line in the Node environment. But it actually can deploy to different environments. And under the hood, it uses Vite to build your code, which uses Rollup under the hood to build your code. And so you have plugins which can do all kinds of different things. And obviously, your deployment target is going to run in a different environment. You have to understand a little bit about that. We use Nitro as a server framework to compile everything and run it. And you have to understand things about request and response handlers. You might also have to or want to understand things about the node request and response object. You might also want to understand, what's going on with stuff, in your node modules and how dependencies work and some of the different things that are involved. And it is phenomenally complex. Like it's not an easy thing if you're trying to. I mean, I don't want anybody to have to know any of that to use Nuxt. But the moment you start digging, like it's hard, like to understand everything that's going on in web dev. I mean, we're very fortunate in lots of ways. We don't have to write Webpack configs anymore, but there's a lot to grasp for sure. Sorry, you were asking tech stack. So, and I think it depends a little bit on what you're building. I think there are a lot of good choices out there. I can, rather than say an ideal tech stack, I can tell you I built one, a little SaaS app last year, which I haven't launched yet because I haven't had time to make it look nice enough. But I built that on. I used Nuxt for the app. I used Supabase for authentication and data in like real-time database updates. I used Stripe to handle billing. I think I used SendGrid at the time to handle programmatic transactional emails. I used, and I think I deployed it to Vercel. And the whole thing, it works. At some point, I'd need to launch it. But honestly, I personally like picking different things. So I like not always going for the same one because it's better, I feel like, just sort of get familiarity with different things that are out there rather than always sticking to the same thing.
Thank you. And even what Jacob said in the chat, like there's also so many different people are going to have different tech stacks on can make something similar. And when you're starting out, at least from my experience, I'm not necessarily going to be seeing a ton of difference with building a simple app using like if it's going to be milliseconds or anything like that for runtime, because I'm not going to be building a big enough app to really notice these things. Yet something that I have found very valuable is when you build a community and you're part of a community, using tribal knowledge is something that is so valuable and be able to get answers. So like with Jacob's community, we are the OSRG like Discord, and they mainly do things in React and the T3 stack that Theo talks about a lot. And it's easier to get questions answered if I'm using something from there. Where if I'm doing something with Vue or Nuxt, there's the Vue School Discord, there's the Nuxt, there's like so many different ones. And Vue, I'm trying to think of all of the discords that there are there too, that to get the answers there. So it's for myself, if somebody were to be like, yo, which ones would you use? I like using the ones that make the most sense and have the most community. And also when I haven't touched Svelte at all. I'm like, Svelte, I know it's a word, it's a thing. I'll get to it maybe someday, yet it's not as popular. Doesn't mean it's bad, and yes, Jacob, lots of TypeScript. Everything is TypeScript. Josh has been here, you're here, like everybody loves TypeScript. Don't worry.
Oh, by the way, just to throw in a plug, we have a Nuxt Discord server, which is 100% where I would recommend coming to ask questions if you are wanting to build a Nuxt project.
Yes.
I'm not for you, Jenn. I know you know, but
I thought I said it. Did I not say it? Because
you probably said it. Yeah.
I said it in my head.
I think you said it. Yeah.
And yes, Daniel was on Rozelle's stream and will be on Nick's stream tomorrow. This is actually a big reason. He was on Rozelle's stream and I was like, I've like hung out with you during conferences like 3 times and I haven't had you on the stream yet. So I was like, you need to come on my stream too. And that does bring up a great question that I loved how you went into this on Rozelle's stream with GitHub was, how did you get into using Nuxt and into the technical field? Because a lot of people, and I feel like teachers are a huge part of this in the US at least, because like trying to find better jobs and opportunities. How did you get into Nuxt and being where you are today?
So it's a good question. So so basically when I was a kid, I taught myself to program Visual Basic just for fun, and sort of I enjoyed computers, so I had Linux, and I remember sort of getting different little CDs of different Linux distros and trying them out. So I sort of I knew my way around a bit. So I would write, when I went to university, they had this wonderful library of classical music, but it could be downloaded. So I wrote a Perl script to download it all and listen to it on my computer offline. So things like that were really useful, just tools. But I didn't really, I didn't study it. I studied law, which was great. Enjoyed that. Studied theology. Actually worked for a church for a number of years. And then I started a creative agency. And gradually we needed to deliver more digital products. It was a message agency. We focused on clarity of communication, figuring out how to communicate what was special or unique about a business. But we needed to deliver some projects. So I started doing design work. I started building websites, and initially in WordPress. But then more and more, we tried to sort of make it more sort of modern WordPress stuff like Roots, using Laravel inspired technology. And then through Laravel, I discovered Vue. And then one day I said, hey, we're switching. We're going to build this next project in Nuxt, which I had just found out about. And that was basically how we discovered it. I switched my agency to Nuxt. My lead dev did not like it when I told him that's what we were going to do. And then I just started contributing. So as we started doing things, I then pivoted into SaaS and built an app for a SaaS startup, which I then acquired, called Parent Scheme. And we built that in Nuxt, and basically contributed that way. So I just did it because I enjoyed it. And then when I decided to shut down a Parent Scheme, or actually a little bit before that, I had joined the core team. But when I decided to shut down, basically Sebastian pretty quickly said, hey, what do you think about sort of full-time doing open source? And that was the start of some exciting things. That's about 2 years ago now.
Yay. What were you using before you switched to Nuxt?
Before Nuxt, I was using Vue just on its own in the browser,
Okay.
sort of raw template strings, runtime compiler, Vue loaded in the, like from a CDN, that kind of thing. Jess is here. Hey.
What up, Jess? How's it going? Yes, and Jess will be on the show eventually too to talk about Vue stuff, Vue and things. And for those who don't know, if you ever decide to do a late night stream where it's like co-working, but everyone else is bullshitting and you're stuck on CSS, Jess may join your stream to talk you through it. And help you on CSS. That is how I met Jess. And yes, so 5 years ago, okay, that makes sense. Like on your timeline too, on like getting into Nuxt and your first issue that you submitted. That's exciting.
5 years ago. Crazy.
And you are welcome to lurk, Jess. This is the fun part about Teach Jenn Tech is you're not going to be forced to be in the conversation. Well, sometimes if you're like Josh and Jacob, then maybe you'll be forced into the conversation. All right.
Something edge something.
Yes, TypeScript. All right. So we talked a lot about how you got into this, a lot of more theory on like the differences between a framework and a meta framework and TypeScript, eslint, Edge, Cloud Workers, how you got into this, and also about Nuxt Nation, Vue Nation, Vue Forge, and another Vue Forge is the next 2 days, which y'all should come hang out because I'll be emceeing and it'll be fun. And it's free. And it's with Vue School. But I
do
feel
love, like if people don't know what Vue Forge is, it is totally worth saying because it is, I think it's one of the best formats out there. So it's a free event. You learn to build something. So you basically code alongside lots and lots of other people. There are periodic talks from people who talk through how they built different bits of it, and things like and as well as other kind of there are mentors you can approach and ask for advice. Like the whole thing feels like fantastic fun to me. Like I would totally be up for that.
Yay, thank you. And the one that we're doing the next 2 days is going to be building uh, code with blockchain, learning about crowdfunding and discovering Web3 more. And yeah, Daniel answered your question, so that made it easy. Yep. Although you can do certain parts of Astro with specific meta frameworks, correct? I think so. I haven't built on Astro in a minute.
So what do you mean? You can use Astro to do things, or you mean you can do the things that Astro does in other frameworks?
I would say both because I think you can use other frameworks within Astro as well.
So Astro supports more than, so, for example, with Nuxt, you're just using Vue. Astro supports different ones. So you could have Vue, React, Solid, Svelte. I think it supports all of them. But it is a meta framework like Nuxt. So Nuxt is a static site generator as well. And so is Astro. So they're both in the same kind of space of something built on top of other frameworks. I would have said. But
okay,
maybe not.
I like it. I think it's a good explanation. I am commenting Astro just so that way y'all can see that. But also, if I don't know what we might build, but I'm totally down to see if I can install it. Let's see if I can actually install Nuxt and use it. And I'm just going to nuxt.com. I'm going to share my screen. I don't know what I'm going to build. We're just going to see how easy it is to actually install. And I will say this because y'all, I haven't done this in a minute. I've been very focused for work for a while that I haven't even like touched this stuff. But for NPX, I can use NPM instead, right? I think.
NPX will execute it directly from NPM. So this means you don't need to install anything before running the command. So I think it is NPM, but it's just the executable bit of it.
I was going to, I guess
where
I
I
could
sort
paste
of
there.
sit on the edge of my seat and see what happens.
Yes, we will install the following packages. Because I definitely didn't do this at all. My app. Yeah, what are all the conferences you've been going to, Daniel?
So, well, I don't think it's not been too many, but there are a few coming up. But just recently, I was at the We Are Devs World Congress in Berlin. World Congress.
Ooh.
I mean, that sounds like insane. And it was huge. There were 10,000 people. You'll run npm or pnpm, or you have to install
first
some dapps.
Yeah. I skipped lines, which nobody will be surprised about here. Y'all, let me change screen so it's easier to see. I am really bad about skipping lines. I try not to. I really do. It happens. It's not that I'm not the best at it. Not skipping lines. And how was the conference? Did you do a talk at it or did you attend?
I gave a talk about I built Nuxt from scratch, or something less than Nuxt, but sort of similar, like, in concept. And that was fun. That was a lot of fun. But I mean, there's huge numbers of people. It was in some ways overwhelming. So there were like 10,000 people at the conference, but obviously lots and lots of tracks. So people were constantly, and huge numbers of exhibitors. It just felt it was a huge thing. What I often struggle with at conference, like I love conferences because I like meeting at people and talking to people and finding out what other people are doing and what cool things are out there in the world. The yeah, Matt, that's right. It's not quite as catchy as the title. But with 10,000 people, you can feel a little bit overwhelmed in some ways. And like, because what I want connection. I want people that I get to know and actually like, and and for so much for me, it's when I go to places, I meet people that I actually know because they've been, I've seen them, we've talked on Discord, or they've contributed somehow, or we're in the same circles, or Twitter, or whatever. And there were actually great opportunities to meet people there, even though it was so big, and actually have some nice conversations too. So I would guess you are tethered to your mobile phone based on some of those networks that are popping up, but maybe not.
Actually, no. Well, I mean, they're all on the same network. I don't know.
Cool.
Interesting. But we got to look how easy it was. I think that's one of the scariest things is installing from the first time, and just so that way people can see a bit more of what I did. In case you've never installed any of these before, or not as familiar with it, is when you go to like Nuxt.com, you can install the framework and get started with an app. By majority of the sites like this or Astro will have the copy, and once you're in the folder you want to go to, that is what I did at the very beginning. And then we went into the app itself and did the npm install, and voila, we did the npm run, which let us look at the actual site, which is this one. Yay.
Just to say, if anyone else is looking to start a new app, and I didn't tell you this, Jenn, but there's another site as well, which you can access from the header. If you go back to the Nuxt website, you should see a drop down on the Nuxt logo at the top. And if you click that drop down, there's also Nuxt.new. And on that site, it will give you the same command, but it will also give you, if you scroll down, a range of other starters that let you start with some other templates. And there are also, if you click the link at the top of the page to themes, you can also start with some themed projects. So those are, Nuxt has the ability to sort of have a theme that you can install, and then you write all your own code, but it's themed that way. And yeah, it might inject components or composables into your thing. And so those are a few themes that, so those are just some other ways people might want to get started if they want to get started.
When did this come out? Because I think this is newer than last time I looked at Nuxt.
Yeah, well, I think one of the main things that's happened is that we've linked to it. So it came out, I think it's probably about a year ago that we first built Nuxt.new, but we've only just we actually redesigned it and rebuilt it, and now it's and linked to it. And there's also another one. If you go to the top, you can click Nuxters. And this was a fun thing. Someone said this on the Discord, and I basically quickly built a proof of concept. And Sebastian and some of the Nuxt Labs team have sort of rebuilt it. But if you connect with GitHub, it will pull in how many pull requests you've made to Nuxt or on.js, and like issues and comments and things like that. And you can get a special role in the Nuxt Discord if you want. That was quite fun.
I'm excited about this. I feel like this wasn't quite out with the Nuxt Studio, right? Did I?
Nuxt Studio is so Nuxt.studio is the website, and that is a commercial product which is being built by Nuxt Labs. So Nuxt Labs is a company. It's founded by the same people who created Nuxt, so Sebastian and Alex Chopin. But it's not a project of Nuxt. So Nuxt is an open source independent framework. But Nuxt Studio is a commercial product. It's great. It looks fantastic to me. It's sort of Git-based CMS with a GitHub integration. So you have previews, like branch previews. Even works on GitHub pages for giving you branch previews, even though you don't. It doesn't deploy them. You can still actually preview the changes on your live site, which is a lot of fun. So, but I think it's currently, you have to sign up for access right now. It's a wait list, but they are letting people in all the time.
I signed up quite some time ago, and I'm like, I wonder if I actually got it into it or not, but I'm not
Have you
quite
not got
sure.
in?
I
I'm
don't
sure
know.
I can
I'm
poke Sebastian. Like, come on, Sebastian, let Jenn in.
and
I'm sure.
maybe I don't remember. I know that I've become like so drowned in work that I've like and moving. I moved states about a month ago, and so I'm like I kind of fell off the edge of the world. I was like I forget the rest of the everything that's going on. Um, so I'll have to look into it. But for those who have not looked into a Nuxt app and doing the install, we didn't do it with a theme. I'm so sorry if y'all can hear my dog. I'm hoping she stops soon.
Not too bad.
But it's you can go in here and being able to look at all of the different options and let's see. I actually haven't gotten okay, here we go. It's actually not too like different. This is fun. It's my first time looking at it, y'all. So that's why I'm like, I don't know where anything is.
So that folder, that .nuxt folder, is all generated stuff, and it's mostly for telling your editor, your IDE, like what is available in the Nuxt environment. So you shouldn't really need to get into it unless you want to. The main entry point for you is app.vue. So everything that is currently displaying in your site is in app.vue. And by the way, I love your editor theme. Like, it feels quite fun. Yeah, I would definitely install that. Volar, which is also powering WebStorm now for Vue and also some other languages too. So basically, if you were to get rid of Nuxt, that Nuxt welcome component there, and just type something or put some HTML, then that is going to just show up in your browser the moment you save that.
The most exciting, I know. Go back. Oh, I gotta redo it.
Yes, the dev server does need to be running.
Yeah, that does have to happen. Oh, hey, it works. That's exciting.
Yay! Oh, now at the bottom of the page, you can see Nuxt DevTools. So if you click that little, if you click that, you can basically now go and click any element in the page, and it will take you back to like show you where that came from.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's not bad. So you can basically like click to go back to the source, and you can actually. Is that working for you?
No.
Maybe. Not yet.
Doesn't mean I'm clicking it right.
Nuxt logo. Oh, maybe you have to get started. Anyway, if you click that little mountain on the left, the Nuxt logo, and then say, yeah, I'm happy to get started. What's happening now?
I don't know. I broke it. There we go.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, when you click the thing to select, it hides the DevTools so you can see underneath it. That's what's going on. But if you click get start, or just go straight in, there are lots of different.
Stop clicking stuff. This is like the story of my life. Everybody tells me, Jenn, stop clicking stuff.
Don't stop clicking stuff. Clicking stuff is basically how anybody ever discovers anything. Like that's how I know half of the things, or anything that I know, is because I click stuff. So like always click stuff. So I think but there are lots of different little things you can explore in there.
Oh, this is cool.
So it will sort of expose a lot of information. There won't be any pages because we just have the one app.vue. But like if you click in modules, for example, the one which is, we need to get like text so you can see them, but that one, you can install a new module. And this is how one of the unique things about Nuxt as opposed to Next, for example, is that we have like it's really extensible. So you can pick some kind of integration that you want to have in your app, and it has full control of Nuxt. And we expose lots of different ways you can integrate with it. So you can pick. A lot of these are community modules. people can submit their modules to be listed in our API, and then it gets pulled down into things like DevTools and listed on the website as well. And if you just pick something and click, you can see some details. Just, click there. And, this is for security. But if you go back to your terminal, you have to click a link so that it makes sure that it's not some like nefarious person trying to install something on your operating system.
Right.
You did a Google search for it. If you go and put it again and
right?
Yeah, that should be no. I think maybe there's a space at the beginning. Maybe that's why it's doing the search. See if you can backspace. Okay. There are the two colons at the beginning. You can change that to localhost. Backspace, and then localhost. This is not as seamless as it should be, but you only have to do it once, and then your computer should be authorized. Okay, so if you go back,
weird, there, it's right here.
If you go back to the original tab, then you can cancel that and restart the installation again. This is a little bit of a pain. Try it again. FormKit, hopefully. So it's going to install the module and then configure it in your Nuxt config. So you can just click the install button in the bottom right. And hopefully that's going to install it. Fingers crossed. There you go. There's the terminal. And I think Nuxt is probably just restarting in the background. So yeah, it's installed. You have a new module. It's enabled. If you go and look in your Nuxt config, it's already set up there for you. There it is.
This is fun. Y'all need to do this. This is great. That was a lot of fun.
So there's stuff and there are other integrations too, whatever like CMS you want to do. But you can see some of the things that Nuxt exposes. There are 125 built-in composables that are available, and you can see those. You can see which ones are being used in your app. The ones in white are actually being used. Those are being used by Nuxt itself, but you can also use some yourself. And some packages that you install on modules will add their own composables, and this is a good way of seeing them. And actually, some of them will also add documentation in the DevTools. So you can see the docs right there when you're using stuff. But honestly, explore it. There's lots and lots of stuff in there to see. You can click that enable routing button there to enable it. At the moment, you just have one file, which is app.vue, which serves everything. But if you click enable routing, it'll create a pages directory for you. And it might reload or something. Happening in your, go back to your IDE and did it do anything? It might have done something. Yeah, it created a pages directory.
Pages. Okay,
and an index.vue file in there. And so all you then need to do in your app.vue is put a Nuxt page. It actually added Nuxt page for you. That's great. So you can actually just go back to your browser and refresh. And I think you should see now just hit refresh at the top of the page. And it's possible you might have to restart your dev server. You won't after 3.7 comes out tomorrow, but it's possible you have to.
Nothing like having you on like the day before. Yay! And it's set up. Cool.
So and now you can click into the page and you can see stuff like how your routes match the pages. So this is cool. This is the route. You can then navigate between them. You can have middleware that's going to control whether people can access certain pages or not. And this basically exposes all of that so you can see and explore it. You just got.
Can you drag and drop your assets in here too, or you still have to go through the IDE?
Somehow I feel you can't, but it's a good idea. Like we should add that as a feature request. And honestly, Anthony Fu is sort of leading development of the DevTools, and he is phenomenal. So pretty much if you suggest that would be a nice idea, it would probably happen pretty soon. It might already do it. I don't know. You could check.
We could try it really quick. Let's see.
It probably doesn't.
Why not? Let's see if it gives us an I don't even know. Oh, look, learning TypeScript. Oh, this is the
Who's
Oh, it does
it?
it.
Does.
It does
it. Does. Click upload. Yay.
This is very exciting, y'all. I like this. Okay. And then I am just going to go back and
it's there.
Okay, y'all. This is really cool. Like, if this is like somebody's first project, this dev tool makes it so much easier to learn. Like, just like getting stuck on stuff when we were going, let me go here. And you hit it. Oh, no, go here. Like this. Like this is so cool. Because then you know what to go fix.
I'm not quite sure why that isn't opening in your browser. I think it must be a regression.
I think it's because, at least when I'm looking at it, I think that I have to go click on the information right here. When I clicked on the text itself, it did open.
Yeah, and that'll be it. So that actually takes you to the line in the file that corresponds to the bit on the screen that you're clicking. So like if you're joining a big project, it's not just a new project. If you're joining a big project where there are lots of components and it's a bit confusing what's what, this can help you immediately find, like, I want to fix that. I want to change that. I'm going to click it and it will take me to it in my editor. And I now know how to, like, where to make a change.
I'm very much enjoying this. This is so fun.
Yay!
This is just like happiness. Okay, I'm gonna have to build something, y'all, in Nuxt. Like this is fun. I'm having a lot of fun just with the tooling too. Oh, this is awesome. Oh, what's that? That's what I'm gonna end up doing is like, what's that? What's that?
Oh, this is fun. This is fun. Okay, so start tracking. Now, basically, I'm not sure it's going to do a massive amount because you have no code in the app. But what it will do, let's go and put some stuff in your app. Okay. So maybe let's see what should we do. If you let's just create a function. Okay. We've only got one page, so the only thing we can do is like add a query string. This is the simplest thing. So if you go up into your script setup at the top, just under const root equals use root, let's just write a function. So we'll say function go somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Remind me how to write that one.
Just make that one lowercase, just lowercase function, and then space, like one word, go somewhere, and then like a pair of parentheses, and then some curly braces. The curly braces on the other side of the parentheses. And then inside the curly braces, I'm sorry, I'm saying curly braces, but that might be a totally strange way of talking about it. Just type navigate capital T-O. Sorry, the navigate will be lowercase. So lowercase n. And then capital T, O, and then like parentheses, brackets, and inside the parentheses put a string, which is / sorry, with the quotes, you're right. And then / and then just like test equals true. Like obviously you wouldn't do this. And then in your code, like you can just say like put a button, and so go under like the P tag there that says current root, and just say put a button element in, and the button can just have some text like go somewhere. And then in Vue, the way you will make that button do what the do the function is if you go back into the button and just into the element bit. So just between button and the angle bracket, do at click. So like no the other one where you were.
The other one. Okay.
Yeah. So just space and then at click equals quotation mark and then go somewhere. Just the name of the function.
Yeah, one word.
And probably it will not want the parentheses, although it might work. I just don't 100% know.
What up, Christian? Okay.
Okay, so if you now click the button, so okay, it is a 404 because I guess that page doesn't exist. But what you'll see in this tracking thing is that you can actually see all the functions that have been called all the way along the way. And if you click them, you can see
that's cool.
when it was called, where the stack trace of the thing that called the function was, and the arguments that it accepted. Like click navigate to, and you can see the string that was passed to that function, and it was called from index.vue. And basically, this tracking tool injects this. So you have this for your whole app, where you can actually see like timeline of what is being called where, what are its arguments, and it's quite a useful debugging tool. So, and that obviously is the use root, which is in the page.
This is really cool. And I like that you can do the pages here too. I wonder, wanted to see. Okay. Let me go back. Current route, all routes. Route path. Go here. Okay, it opened it. This is really cool. I know I'm just kind of clicking around, seeing what happens. Yet at the same time, I'm really liking. Okay, that was fun. Being able to just go back to the homepage from here. This is okay. I feel like I need to come like figure out something to build here now because I'm like, I just want to build something.
Yes, I'm so glad.
I'm like, this is fun. This is a lot of fun. Okay. Well, I feel like I've got my homework set up for me, and I'll be doing all Nuxt and Vue stuff the next 2 days, which is exciting. Any questions, y'all, or anything, Daniel, you think we should look at before we start wrapping up?
No, well, I mean, I totally agree. I think that clicking around is the best way to learn anything. At least that for me. I'm totally a clicker arounder. Oh, that, by the way, that tab you just looked at allows you to run VS Code inside your browser. And you can actually make changes to your website inside your website. But it's a little bit more complicated to set up because it's still an experimental feature within VS Code. But there's also one more thing. There's a picture-in-picture mode where you can actually detach the Nuxt DevTools from. Oh yeah, you can click Open Graph and actually see what it will look like. Your website will look like in like in a search result, which it doesn't have any. You've not put any.
But I like this. I like this a lot. This is happiness. But where
basically, it'll tell you it's missing. Like you need a title, you need whatever. But you can also, picture in picture, I think is it the next one?
Plugins.
You definitely have to do a lot of exploring of icons. No, it must be, it's an experimental option. I think you have to probably enable it in the settings, which might be somewhere there.
I might not have access. It's okay.
I have to figure out where it is. But that is something that can be fun. Oh, that like there's a command palette. Anyway, you can have a look. There's lots and lots of stuff which might be fun to explore around.
This is all so awesome. I'm having so much fun with all the things we can look at, and it also telling us about it from the dev tools itself. Okay. I'm going to end up staring at it and not talk, and I feel like this is not what you're supposed to do when you're live streaming. Learner, did you, as I looked up, did you get your answer? Because it's like when you copy and paste it on there, what it will look like if you send it in as a message or something, what it'll look like for the page, I would think, like the link to it.
So if you put things like your image and your title and whatever, it'll start filling out those previews on the side. I don't believe it's actually Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter. It's not sending your data away. It's just displaying what it will look like based on the metadata we have.
Yeah, like visuals help me. So in case anybody else needs a visual. It's a good thing I don't have exciting conversations on there. But okay, that one's not it because we went live. Where'd the other one go? This one. Okay, I thought it was really funny saying I have a good view on the Nuxt tweak. I thought I was hilarious. Doesn't mean I was, but normally it would be that they would be hyperlinked right here, but I saw it on mobile this way. That's weird. Oh well. That is A-okay. Yay. Okay. Wow. We really did go over a lot today. So let's see if I can get it. Meta frameworks, Next versus Nuxt, TypeScript, eslint, Cloudflare and workers, Edge, how you got into Nuxt, and then building Nuxt and the dev tools. And I got really fascinated with the dev tools. And I'm like, now I want to go build something with it because that was a lot of fun.
Yes, that sounds pretty fun to me.
Okay, cool. Yay. Well,
yay.
then
This has definitely been this has been cool. It's been a fun conversation. Nice chat.
I forgot one.
What?
Oranges in the shower. ShowerOranges.
That was actually the most important.
I almost forgot it. If anybody didn't see what that's about when this goes up on YouTube later this week, you can go watch it. It's in like the first 10 minutes and you can watch it. Very excited. Awesome. And Daniel, how do people follow you? Where should they follow you? What's the best contact for to join the Nuxt community and doing stuff with Nuxt?
So you can basically, so you can find me on Twitter. I'm Daniel C. Rowe, so this thing on Twitter. I also have a website, which is probably the best place to go because it has links to everywhere else. But basically, feel free to drop me a direct message. The Nuxt Discord, you can find me there, message me. If you've got any questions or anything, I'm really, really happy to help. I have a little, I put a few thoughts about contributing to Nuxt. If that's not something that you're if that's something you want to try, then basically we would be really glad of that as well. So yeah, the main thing is contact me. If you've got any questions, I absolutely love it. If people get in touch, I can help in any way.
Yay. Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining today. Learner, as always, thank you for joining, you specifically, because it's always middle of the night for you. So please go to bed. And looking forward to Christian will be on the show, I think in 2 weeks. I asked Christian about this and I'm actually building my website for a calendar that will tell people. And consistently scheduled for 2 months out. I'm very proud of getting there. So thank you all. And if you want to come hang out with me the next 2 days, you can build your app as part of the Vue Forge community. which uses Nuxt in a lot of it too. I don't know if this one will. I think it does. I should definitely go check it out. But cool. Yay. And let's see who we should raid to. I haven't looked yet. Any requests for the raids? Anyone want to go somewhere specific before I just raid you to whoever I feel like? Well, I know who we're raiding to because nobody asked, but it's definitely Josh. We are raiding to Josh because then we can go talk about more TypeScript. And thank you all. It always takes forever to raid. Daniel, are you good at multitasking during like waiting for the raid to go?
I'm all about multitasking. Like, absolutely.
I feel like I'm always like really bad at doing the raids, but all right, I am hitting end broadcast.